I'm Mac, and welcome to Farming with the Alexanders. Today we are going to talk about the Paulownia tree. This is the introduction part 2 to the Paulownia tree, and so I've got an associate with me here today, and this is Preston. And Preston, how you doing, buddy?
Good. How are you?
So I'm going to let you kind of introduce yourself, and then we'll dive right on into this.
Appreciate you having me. My name's Preston Payne. I'm a forester and a representative for World Tree out here. I'm originally from Montgomery, Alabama. Went and got my undergraduate degree at Auburn University studying forestry. Studied mostly pine trees in forestry school, and then got a job doing something a little different, growing Paulownia hardwood trees on plantation format, like farming hardwood saw timber and uplands as opposed to your typical hardwood saw timber growing out of naturally regenerated stands.
Well, you know that we were going to start this up, so we've been on a little bit of a learning curve. I talked about Paulownia, and so the comments on what's a Paulownia tree. It has many names. Empress Splendor.
Yeah.
And it has several names, but we call it the Paulownia tree. And so what I was going to let Preston tell you. What is a Paulownia tree, and what is it used for?
Yeah.
Okay.
So yeah, it has definitely many names. Paulownia is the scientific name. The ones we plant specifically are Paulownia elongata hybrids, and we have several different strains that we plant. But the tree, I learned it in forestry school as princess tree, and actually you learned it as an exotic invasive tree that Paulownia tomentosa, its cousin, is what people are most familiar with. You may see it growing on, rocky hill croppings and different things, but
that's what we don't have.
Yeah,
on the farm.
right. Yeah, that's an important thing to distinguish. There is, the ones we're planting are non-invasive hybrids.
Yeah, let's move a little
as
closer.
opposed to the ones we plant are non-invasive hybrids, as opposed to Paulownia tomentosa that most folks, when you Google Paulownia and when you may have heard of it before, that's the one you're familiar with. But these are planted on a plantation format at 110 trees per acre. Most of our plantations are anywhere from 10, 15 up to 60 acres. We're gonna do a little bit larger than that. We mostly work with small landowners that plant either old ag land or old cutover land. Jack and his neighbor Jeff over here have their Paulownia plantation kind of interspersed in between some of their longleaf stands out here. So.
Yeah, so another big question. So what is this Paulownia used for? What are they doing with it?
Yeah, how are you selling it? Yeah. So we're growing hardwood saw timber, and it's a very niche kind of market. It's not a structural lumber by any means. Nobody's building houses with it. But some of the main markets we're looking to get into are the instrument market, vinyl siding, a little bit of veneer. I actually got one of my business cards right here. Is made out of two-ply thick Paulownia lumber, but that's the more we're not exactly in that market space yet. Full throttle, really growing as hard saw timber for a range of different products, but mostly right now what we're selling is like instrument, guitar blanks, or trim and lining and all kinds of different kind of niche little art markets and different things. Anybody that's looking for a lightweight, straight-grained hardwood tree that
tell the folks the lumber is very unique,
right?
And then when you're talking about guitar, and there's a reason that they like the Paulownia wood, a musical instrument. Tell them about that.
Guitars, the guitar blank and instrument market is a good example because it's a market where they're losing the supply of like ash trees, for instance, or disappearing because of the emerald ash borer.
Right.
So people are looking for a more sustainable alternative. Ash and Paulownia is a species of wood that, like Fender, for instance, makes their Telecaster and Stratocaster models of electric guitars. The bodies are one of the woods they already use and is actually imported is Paulownia, because it's a real lightweight but yet strong lumber. That
one of the characteristics that is 10 times harder than pine. That's what it says.
Right.
But it's light. Once it's completely dry, it's just amazing. Pick up this big slab, and to feel how
Yeah.
hot it is. And
Yeah.
it's
And
almost like balsa,
right, and
but it has the dexterity of
yeah,
oak. You know?
right, yeah, exactly. And it's not necessarily like it because it's less. It's not as dense as like pine or something like
Right.
that is, but it's strong in the sense that like, you know, as a unit, you could step. You know, I'm a big guy. I could step on a big board of it, and you know, it'll bow a little bit, but it's not going to break. So it's very. I think it has the highest strength to weight ratio of any hardwood.
Yeah.
Now the weight ratio is also kind of skewing that a little bit, but it's very strong lumber for sure.
Well, one of the things we set up here, this is a stand that we had to coppice this year, and so that means we cut it to the ground. It's these trees are in year 2, so you can see how much growth. I'm not sure. Looking behind
you.
you.
May see some
Yeah, this is just for 6 months. Some of those are 12, 14 feet.
Yeah.
And
There's some replacements interspersed in here, but you know,
Yeah.
you can see some of these that have had the full 2 year of root growth, and then this is the stem you've got.
So I'm real happy. You see, I've got baskets around some of these down here. And the reason that we are in year 2 and we had to coppice again, because last year 1 is really the first coppice. Yes. We were at year 0, then year 1. But down in this bottom here, a real problem with deer foraging and eating the plants. My wife and I spent all last summer chasing deer. I tried everything. The deer be gone. My daughter's dirty diapers, all that stuff would work, but then, you know, after
To a point. Yeah.
and they'd come right back.
Yeah.
But we did anyway.
Yeah, deer is definitely of pests and disease issues we have. The white-tailed deer is our #1 pest, and it's kind of a funny issue because it's all dependent on the population you have in your area, how much alternative forage they have, and then also just, you know, some so they don't even find out what they are until the trees are big enough where they can't prey upon them. But you know, unfortunately, Mac and a slew of you know, farmers around Atlanta, for instance,
Mm-hmm.
you know, the deer populations over there are so high that you have to be proactive about, you know, mitigating some of these deer issues, because unfortunately, when they find out that they have a taste for them, these leaves are almost like celery stalks. So,
Yeah,
you know,
it's,
you know, nutritious for them.
They actually didn't bother them the first year,
Yeah.
and then, but it wasn't until after we coppiced the trees down to the ground when the new growth, the new shoots started coming up. They you know, the foragers, their browse are kind of like big goats,
Right.
and so they had a taste for it. And but I'll tell you, for me, it may not be for everybody, but I use dog wire, and we put out over 400 baskets in a couple this area, and that has pretty much alleviated the problem. And I may put some more out next year. You know,
Right.
But anyway,
The benefit of these baskets too is you coppice these, get up size. You know, some of the there next year, the deer really can't hurt them other than, you know, maybe some antler rub.
but what they do is they'll if they nip the top out of it, then they've ruined the tree. It's going to branch out.
Right, and all that means is it's just set you back another year. You got to come through and cut it again. So, you know, yeah, Mac and Jeff over here have had pretty much the gamut of deer issues, you know, that people end up seeing. But you know, these trees it's really like farming hardwood saw timber as opposed to,
That's right.
you know, a pine plantation like you see in the back over here. It's
Well, I'm excited about this summer.
Yeah.
We've had a
Oh,
great
yeah.
growing season, and so it's all everything's good. You just have to be a little creative. All right, so here's the big thing, and we'll get through this video. It says, what is the market value for the Paulownia lumber? Oh, it varies.
Yeah.
It's like stock market, but just,
yeah, and it varies, and it all depends really on the quality of lumber that you can grow on your stand. But you know, pretty much the price we've seen is anywhere from, like, on the low end, you know, $3 or $4 a board foot, and then on the high end to $16 a board foot. And that low end encompasses, you know, just some of the worst, you know, poorly grown trees you got out there, right?
now this is the farmer's. This is the farmer's cut of the.
Right, because at the end of the the way the deal is set up, because at the end of the way the deal is set up is World Tree provides the Paulownia seedlings up front at no cost, farmer, and then the farmer, you know, plants them and has to, you know, manage the crop care and maintenance and put in all the time and, you know, tying up your land and investment into the 10-year rotation. And then at the end of the 10-year rotation, World Tree is going to come in, and we're going to, you know, harvest the trees and have the trees milled, and then we are actually splitting the profits of the sawn lumber with the farmer. So you know, World Tree has the incentive to get, you know, obviously to make more money
right.
for us and you to get the highest dollar and highest price out of these trees. And that's my whole job, is to go around.
Preston, I know you've got some samples here. Tell us what you got.
These are all 2 1/4 inch thickness pieces of Paulownia lumber. You know, this is maybe 5, 6 inch, and these are all. This is actually just a scrap piece from our mill we're contracted with in South Carolina, and these are actually pieces of Paulownia that were planted back in the day before World Tree was even established. These are what we call, you know, legacy Paulownia pieces. But you know, just to kind of show you some of the lumber, it's got this long straight grain, you know, pretty hard and very weight too.
Yeah.
And then this is actually one of the products.
Like
yeah, it's amazing. Yeah. I mean, I've got videos of some of my buddies holding a 16-foot long slab of this 2 1/4 inch thick piece.
Yeah. And
they're, you know, slinging it up above their head like the Hercules. So, you know, this is a one of our main markets we're selling right now is the instrument market, more specifically the guitar blank market. And this is a slab board piece, meaning it's just one solid hunk of lumber. You know, most guitars nowadays that are made out of ash or alder bodies, and that's electric guitars, they're 2 pieces of lumber, you know, maybe about that thick that glue together. And we still sell, you know, 2-piece, 3-piece bodies, but you know, the appeal of Paulownia is that you can get a slab board piece of lumber off of a tree that's grown in 10 years. You know, this specific tree was grown in Knoxville, Tennessee, at a fellow named David Sutton's tree farm, and he grows, mills, and saws all of his lumber there in-house.
I got you. Okay.
He's been doing it for about 20 years, even before World Tree was ever around. So that's just one of the sources, but that was actually cut from our, you know, one of the mills we contract with. And these are all actually, so this piece right here has been riding around in the back of my truck for 2 years. That's and awesome. Has not got a single stain of rot. And if you were to sand this down, it would be just as white as this corner down here is. You know, you get a good, maybe hard to see through that camera, but you know, the lumber is actually white if it's been taken care of and not withered. But yeah, it's you know, it doesn't splinter. It's rot resistant. It's got a long straight grain. You know, there's a lot of appealing qualities of the lumber, and you know, it's really something that small-time landowners on really relatively not that much ground can grow a good merchantable product, where you know, you're not just getting pennies on the dollar for your you're not getting, you know, kind of a stumpage price that hasn't gone up since the 80s.
That's
you know?
right.
The other benefit of these trees is, you know, we grow them on 8 to 12 year rotations, you know, good quality, high quality conditions, which, you know, we've got out here. And after you harvest them, they'll, the first time you split the profits of that, and then after that the trees are yours. So kind of the gift World Tree gives you is the genetics of these trees, that, you know, you can actually take that lumber and market it to somebody else for a better price if you wanted to at the end of the next rotation. But you know, you'll come through here and we'll obviously come back through and buy the lumber as well, but you know, you'll come back through in 10 years and harvest every one of these trees in a new stem. They root sucker just like a sweet gum, or you know, a crepe myrtle, or another tree you're familiar with.
Up to 10 times. So that would be
I think it's up to 7 times is what they advertise. Okay. And in instance, I've seen trees, I guess you could call it a 4th growth tree off of a stump, right? So I think the math they're doing there is that, you know, trees live about 70 years, you know, a root system's lifespan. You can see up to 7 flushes of growth off of that. But really, you know, you'll see mortality and different things, but you know, you can propagate these things via root cuttings and different things. Yeah. So, you know, you can supplement your own supply.
Well, that was one of the
out
things
here if you have mortality.
That perked my ears up. And I was thinking more, I said, if we're going to have a farm, you know, I'd like to see it profitable, and it could go to 4 or 5 generations with the Alexanders, right?
Yeah. Well, and that's the thing is, you know, Paulownia is by no means trying to supplement your native ecosystems and stuff you've got out here. Really, we look to plant probably old pasture land and old row crop land that's just not productive anymore. And really, in my mind, what Paulownia serves to do is make it to where you're farming hardwood saw timber so that you can take the pressure, you know, the financial pressure off of your hardwood bottoms, which are good for wildlife and the ecology of your property. And then even encouraging landowners like Mac to plant species like longleaf pine that, you can get some good hay, straw cut, you know, harvest off of them, but really longleaf is not the preferred lumber species like loblolly is, but it's better for wildlife and your, the ecology of your stand as well. So, it's Paulownia kind of takes some of the financial pressure off of your forest lands and, lets you grow saw timber more like on a farming format as opposed to managing your forest for lumber, where you can take these forest lands and manage them for the ecology of your property or for straw or whatever that is. For instance, we just had this hurricane blow through in Florida.
Yeah.
And we've got a couple stands that, unfortunately, like pines and everything in the area, had some hurricane damage. Those pines are going to have to go through and replant, or else you're just going to have a naturally regenerated stand. These Paulownias, you go through, you clean them up. The ones that are still there, great. The other ones, you just saw them back at the ground, and they'll come back even more vigorous.
Well, that's a good point.
Their own built-in insurance there.
That's right. So we're going to wrap this up. I don't think there's anything. All right, Preston's got something he wants to show us. Forgot to get this out while we were talking about the Paulownia tree.
Yeah.
So,
yeah, this is, talking about, this is, one of our products we mill is a guitar body blank. And this is a slab board. And so I wanted to show Mr. Mack this from one of the company's marketing products we've got here is actually a Paulownia body Telecaster. And this is actually made by a company, G&L, which is a company Leo Fender actually started after he sold Fender to CBS back in the, I want to say it was the late 70s, early 80s.
Man, that's gorgeous.
But yeah, so the neck is maple, and Stratocaster and Telecaster bodies are traditionally made out of ash and alder, and with the diminishing supply of ash and just with the lightweight properties of Paulownia, started as imported wood. It quickly became one of their preferred alternatives. And I'll let Mr. Mack hold this, or maybe one of your hands. Maybe I can hold this for you. You can just feel how light this is, really.
Oh, that is incredible.
Yeah, and if you're familiar with...
I don't play guitar, but I wish I could. Yeah.
I don't know if I'm holding this square or not at all, but...
That looks good.
Telecaster that is typically a pretty heavy instrument, and actually Brad Paisley's signature model Telecaster is made out of Paulownia lumber. And so we've sold 2 big orders to Fender already, as well as a bunch of other boutique guitar manufacturers like G&L and different things. So the company, essentially this guy that makes these big mega yachts and stuff.
Right.
And he likes Paulownia for the sustainability aspect of it and different things, but in general just likes the straight grain and that it's lightweight and doesn't add a whole bunch of extra weight to their boats. So they use it for trim and interior and different kind of things. But this is the fastest developed and really one of the markets that was already there, that we're just kind of looking to supplement some of the international supply of this. And I can hand this back to you and show you some more.
That is pretty.
But so that piece I showed you back there is actually a slab board. You can see a little line right here where they've book matched the 2 sides. That is nice. And as you can see, it's a pretty grain. Brad Paisley editions, the tops, they actually put a piece of spruce on, or I think it's spruce on top to give it a little bit more character in the grain. But as you can see with this piece, some people just like that long straight Paulownia grain, and it plays well too. If I had an amp, you could hear it.
Well, we're gonna have to do that on another video. All right. Well, listen. Hope you enjoyed it today. We're signing off.
Here you go.